welcome in. The lamp is lit, the door is closed, and the night is finally yours. Tonight you step into a single night in ancient Egypt, and you will stay in it until morning. A single night at Abu Simbel, the temple Ramesses the Great, carved into a cliff in the far south, where you sit beneath 4 giant stone kings and let the desert night pass slowly over you. If nights like this one help you loosen your grip on the day, a like or a subscribe is a kind way to say so, and it helps these stories find the people who need them. And if you would like to leave a comment before you drift, tell me who you would most want beside you on a quiet night like this one, and what you might say to them if they were here. So let your weight go down into the bed, and let your shoulders come away from your ears. Lower the light if there is any left, close your eyes, and let the far south of Egypt rise up warm and dark around you. The stone at your back is still warm from the day, and it gives that warmth up to you slowly, the way a loaf holds its heat long after it leaves the oven. You are sitting in cool sand at the foot of a cliff in the far south, where 4 stone giants sit shoulder to shoulder with their hands on their knees, and the dark river moves quietly somewhere below you. There is nothing here that needs you. The sun went down a little while ago, and the air is only now beginning to cool. You can feel the heat leaving the ground under your hands, grain by grain, the way heat leaves everything once the sun lets go of it. Above you, the cliff rises higher than you can easily see, and the 4-seated figures cut into its face are so large that you have to tip your head back to find their calm eyes. Off below the sand, there is water. You cannot see the river well in this light, but you can hear it, a long, low sound with no beginning and no end, the sound of a great deal of water moving without any hurry at all. It has been moving like that all day, and it will move like that all night, and the 4 giants have listened to it for longer than anyone can count. Let yourself lean back against the warm stone. There's a whole night ahead of you here, and nothing in it will ask you to do a single thing. The last of the light is leaving the tops of the 4 giants now, and you watch it go. It slides up their broad chests slowly, gathering at their shoulders, then at their calm faces, then at the very tops of their tall crowns, until only the highest stone catches the sun. For a moment, those crowns glow a soft red, the red of a fire that has burned down to coals, while everything below them has already gone into shadow. Then that last light lifts off the stone and is gone, and the whole cliff settles into the blue of early evening. Their laps went dark first. You noticed it without meaning to, the way the shadow filled the wide-seated laps of the giants before it climbed anywhere else, so that for a little while they seemed to be sitting waist-deep in dusk. Now the dusk has risen over all of them. The 4 faces are still there above you, but softer now, their edges gone gentle, their features easy to lose and find again as your eyes settle into the dark. You are sitting in the sand, at the base of the temple front, with the cliff at your back and the river below, and there is nowhere you need to be. You can feel the sand under you, cool on the surface where the night air has touched it, still faintly warm a little deeper down where your fingers press in. If you dig your hand in slowly, you find that warmth, held in the ground the way it is held in the stone, given up so slowly you could sit here for hours and never feel it fully gone. The desert is beginning to give the day back to the sky. All through the long hours of sun, the sand and the rock drank the heat in, and now, in the dark, they hand it up again in a slow, steady breath you can almost feel on the backs of your hands. This is the kindest hour in the far south. The fierce part of the day is over, and the cold part of the night has not yet come, and for now, the air is exactly as warm as skin, so that you can hardly tell where you end and the evening begins. Lift your eyes to the giants again. They are enormous. Sitting down, with their hands resting flat on their knees, they are taller than any house you have ever stood beside, taller than a row of houses stacked one on another. If you could stand at the foot of just one of them and reach up, your hand would not come near the top of its foot. The great stone knees are far above your head. The wide chests rise higher still. And the faces, when you finally find them against a darkening sky, are calm, so calm, with a faint suggestion of a smile that large stone faces sometimes keep. They are looking east. All four of them face the same way, out across the river toward the place where the sun will come back, and they have been looking that way without turning for longer than any life. They watched the light leave tonight the way they have watched it leave every night. They are watching the dark now with the same patience. There is no worry in them anywhere. They are not waiting the way a person waits, tense and counting. They are simply here and facing east and letting the night arrive. You let your breathing slow to match them. It is easy to do that here, in the presence of something so unhurried. Your shoulders come down. The small, busy thoughts of the day, the ones that circle and circle, begin to lose their grip in this quiet, because nothing in this place is in any kind of hurry, and it is hard to stay hurried when everything around you has decided, thousands of years ago, to be still. Somewhere out over the water, a bird calls once, a single soft note, and then says nothing more. The river answers with its low, steady moving. A little wind comes up off the water and touches your face, warm and dry and smelling faintly of silt and stone, and then it settles again. Between these small sounds, there is a great deal of silence, and the silence is not empty. It is full of the warm dark and the patient giants and the width of the whole southern sky. You settle deeper into the sand. There is a shape your body finds when it is truly allowed to rest, a way the weight goes down and stays down, and you let it happen here at the foot of the cliff. The stone behind you holds you up. The warm ground holds you from below. The four kings keep their watch over you and over the river, the way they always have, and you are a very small thing resting safely at their feet. This is the hour the giants keep. Not the hour of any task, not the hour of the sun's hard work, but this soft hour between the day and the deep of the night, when the world lets go of its heat and its hurry together. Nothing is required of you in this hour. You are only here to feel the warmth leave the stone and hear the river move, and let your own thoughts slow to the pace of a place that has all the time there is. Notice how the dark comes on so gently here that you can hardly say when it arrives. There is no sudden fall of night. Instead, the blue of the sky deepens, shade by shade, and the shadows at the foot of the cliff spread and join, and the far bank of the river loses its edges, until at some moment you cannot name you realize you are sitting in the dark and have been for a while. The change happened around you without asking anything of you. That is how the best rest comes too, not all at once, but shade by shade, until you look up and find you have already let go of most of the day. The sand under your hands has grown cooler on top now, and you press your fingers a little deeper to find the warmth that is still there below. It is a small thing to do, and there's no reason to do it except that it feels good. The cool over the warm, the way a blanket feels good over a warm body on a cool night. Your palms rest flat in it. The grains are fine and dry, and they hold the last of the day's heat down where you cannot see it, giving it up so slowly that you could stay here until dawn and still find a little warmth in the ground. Above you, the four giants have gone almost fully dark, four great calm shapes darker than the sky behind them. You can no longer make out their faces clearly, only the sense of them, the broad shoulders, the tall crowns, the hands resting on the knees. And yet you know the faces are there, turned east, calm, and knowing it is enough. You do not need to see them to feel them keeping their watch above you. They're like the presence of someone you trust sitting nearby in a dark room, not speaking, not needing to, simply there. There is no clock here and no bell, nothing to mark the passing of the hour except the slow deepening of the dark and the slow cooling of the sand. Time moves the way the river moves, without edges, one moment folding softly into the next. You could not say how long you have been sitting here, and it does not matter in the least. The giants do not count the hours, and neither, tonight, do you. You have set the counting down along with the day, and in its place there is only this: warm stone, cool sand, low water, dark sky, and the long, unhurried patience of the four kings above you. A little way off the river makes its long sound, and you let your breath fall in with it. In, slow, the way the water gathers. Out, slower, the way it lets go downstream. There is nothing to solve here, and nothing to hold. The day is behind you, folded up and set down at the foot of the cliff with everything else the giants are keeping. Stay a while. There is more night ahead, and you have already begun to rest. Lie back against the warm cliff and think, for a moment, about what it is you are leaning on. It is not a wall. Walls are built. Someone lays a stone, and then another stone on top of it, and then another, and slowly a building rises up from the ground into the air. This is not that. This cliff was here first, a whole hill of solid rock standing over the river, and what stands before you tonight was not built up out of blocks at all. It was cut back into the hill. Someone found this mountain and opened it like a door. Turn that over slowly in the dark, because it is a strange and lovely thing. The giants at your back are not statues carried here and set against a cliff. They are the cliff. The rock that is their faces has been part of this hill since before there were people to look at it, and it is still part of the hill now, joined to the mountain below and behind, one single body of stone. The halls that go back into the darkness behind them are not rooms with walls. They are hollows, spaces where rock used to be and is no longer, cut patiently out of the living hill until there was room inside for a person to stand. You can almost see how it began. Long ago, someone stood where you are sitting now and looked up at a plain cliff, a blank face of rock over the water, with nothing carved on it at all. And in that plain rock, they saw a door that was not yet there. They saw, inside the solid hill, halls and giants and cool dark rooms, all of it waiting in the stone, needing only to have everything else taken away. So they marked the rock. Think of the first marks, small and careful, lines drawn on the face of the cliff to show where the stone would be opened and where it would be left. A whole plan laid out on a hillside, faint at first, the shape of a great front sketched onto rough rock in the strong southern light. And then the long, slow work of making that plan true, not by adding anything, but by removing, by cutting away the rock that stood in front of the halls that were to be, a hand's width at a time. That is a patient way to make a thing. When you build a wall, every stone you set is progress you can see rising under your hands. But to carve a mountain into a house, you must take the hill apart to find the rooms inside it, and for a long time there is only broken rock and dust and the slow retreat of the cliff face, and you have to hold the whole finished place in your mind and trust that it is in there, waiting, while you free it stone by stone. Whoever began this held that picture steadily for years. And at the heart of all of it, worth every year of cutting into a mountain, was a wish about the light. Sit in the dark and imagine the halls opened straight back into the hill, aimed so that on some mornings the rising sun might reach in through the far door and travel down the dark halls toward the small room at the very back. A shaft of light finding its way into the deep of a mountain, into a room the sun could otherwise never touch. Picture the care that would take. A whole front pointed toward the place on the horizon where the sun comes up, and the halls cut deep and straight behind it, so the light would have a clear path in. Sit with how quiet an idea that is. Not a fortress meant to keep enemies out, not a tower meant to be seen from far away, though it is seen. At the heart of it, you can imagine, is only this: a wish to let the morning sun walk into a mountain and touch a dark room at its center. It is a lovely thing to picture. The giants, the halls, the tall front on the cliff, all of it gathered around that single, gentle hope that the light should find its way in. You lean your head back against a rock and feel how solid it is, how deep the hill goes behind you, how much stone there is above and below and to either side. And out of all that solid weight, someone opened a way in. They made a mountain hold still and become a house. They took the biggest, heaviest, most immovable thing in the whole southern land, a cliff, and they turned it, gently and slowly, into a door for the sun and a home for a name. There is a kind of astonishment in that, but it is a quiet astonishment, the kind that does not startle you but settles over you like the evening does. To carve a house out of a mountain, you have to believe the house is already there inside the stone. And then you have to be willing to work for years by lamplight and in dust, taking the mountain apart to prove it. The far south is full of hard, bright places, but this one was made by that soft and stubborn belief that a hill could be opened, that the sun could be invited in, that solid rock could be asked, very patiently, to become a door. Think, in the warm dark, of the ones who did the opening. They stood on this same slope of rock in the hard southern sun, with a plain cliff before them, and they began. First, the marking, careful lines laid on the stone to show where to cut and where to leave. Then the long removal, the freeing of the halls from the hill, stone dust and lamp smoke, and the steady tap of tools against rock, day after day, season after season. They could not see the finished place while they made it. They could only trust the picture in their minds and keep taking the mountain away from around it. Picture the deep of the work, far back inside the hill, where the sun never reached. There the carvers worked by lamplight, small flames set in the dark, the smell of burning oil hanging in the cool cut air. Above them and around them was the whole weight of the mountain, and before them was only the next hand's width of rock to be freed. They opened the halls the way you might follow a path in the dark with one small light, seeing only a little at a time, trusting the way went on. It was slow, patient, quiet work, and there is no way to hurry it. You cannot rush a mountain. You can only keep at it, gently, until the rock gives up the room it was hiding. And it is easy, in the dark, to imagine that they held the sun in mind. Picture the deep length of the halls aimed, as they cut it, toward the place on the eastern rim where the sun would rise, so that on some mornings a single shaft of light might slip in through the far door and travel the whole dark way to the small room at the back of the hill. Think of the care that would take. To open a mountain is one thing. To open it so straight and so true that the morning sun could walk in a level line all the way to its heart is another. To cut it that carefully, deep in the rock, by lamplight, for a light that would only arrive on a few chosen mornings of the year. And consider that the mountain agreed to it in its slow stone way. Rock does not want to become a room. It is the most patient and stubborn thing there is, content to stand exactly as it has stood for ages. To make it into a house, you cannot force it. You can only ask it, over and over, with tools and lamplight and years, to give up a little more and a little more, until at last the halls are there, and the mountain has become something new without ever ceasing to be itself. The rock is still rock. It has only been persuaded, gently, into a shape that welcomes the light. There is a great quiet in that idea, the kind of quiet that helps a tired mind let go. All that labor, all those years, all that stone taken patiently away, and at the center of it, you can imagine, a wish to let the morning into a dark room. Not to keep anything out. Not to be loud on the horizon, though it is grand. Only, perhaps, to make a place where the light could reach the deep of a hill, and where a name could rest in the cool dark, kept safe by the whole weight of the mountain around it. Let that thought grow soft now, the way thoughts do when you are tired. Behind your back, the hill goes deep and dark, hollowed out by patient hands into cool, still halls you will visit later in the night. For now, it is enough to rest against the mountain that was made into a door, and to feel, in the warm stone, how long a thing can stand once someone has taken the time to open it. Now let your eyes travel across the 4 giants above you, one to the next, slowly, the way you would look along the faces of people sitting together in the dark. There are 4 of them, side by side across the front of the cliff, seated, hands resting on their knees, and they share a single face. It is the same face 4 times over, the face of the king, at rest and unhurried, repeated across the rock like a quiet chord held long. You look from one to the next and find the same calm mouth, the same broad brow, the same eyes turned east toward the coming day. This is the king whose name the mountain keeps, Ramesses II, the one who asked the cliff to hold his likeness 4 times against the sky. He sits here in stone taller than any living man could ever grow, and yet the face is not fierce. It could have been made to frighten. Instead, it was made to be at peace, sitting, hands open on the knees, watching the river with an expression a tired person might wear at the end of a good day. 4 times the same steady face, keeping its long watch over the water road that comes up from the south. Because they are so large, and because they are made of the very cliff, the 4 kings do not feel like statues placed here so much as like a feature of the land itself, the way a mountain has a certain shape you would know from far off. If you had come up the river toward this place, you would have seen them from a great distance, 4 seated shapes against the rock, growing slowly larger as the water carried you nearer, until at last you sat where you sit now, small in the sand at their feet. They are meant to be met that way, gradually, the way you meet a mountain. Look lower now, down at the feet of the giants, and you find something tender hidden in all that scale. Between and beside the great stone legs, there are smaller figures carved into the rock, standing no higher than the giants' shins. They gather at the ankles of the seated kings the way a family would, small people kept close in the shadow of enormous ones. They give the whole cliff the feeling of a household, the great figures and the little ones together, the way a family gathers close in the evening, some grown and some still small, all of them under one roof of stone. There is something in that arrangement that eases the heart at night. The giants are so vast that they might have been lonely, 4 huge kings alone on a cliff. But they are not alone. The little carved figures stand among their feet, belonging to them, sheltered by them, and so the whole front of the temple reads less like a monument and more like a family portrait cut into a hillside, the tall and the small kept forever in the same warm rock. You can rest a little easier knowing the giants are not keeping their watch alone. Watch the 4 faces a while longer, and something happens that happens to everyone who sits here in the dark. The giants begin to seem alive. They do not move, of course. Not a grain of stone shifts. And yet in the changing evening light, with a small wind moving the air and your own eyes softening with tiredness, the 4 kings seem to breathe. A shadow deepens under a stone lip, and it looks like the faint drawing of a breath. The last light shifts on a broad chest, and it looks like the slow rise and fall of someone at rest. You know they are stone. And still, in the dark, they seem to be breathing the night in and out, quietly, together, 4 of them keeping time. It is a gentle trick of tiredness and shadow, and there is no need to shake it off. Let the giants breathe if they want to. Let them be, for tonight, 4 great calm sleepers who happen to be made of cliff, sitting up through the dark with their hands on their knees, watching the river road so that you do not have to. There is comfort in imagining them awake and patient above you, keeping their long watch while you begin, slowly, to let go of yours. They have kept this watch a very long time. Every night, the light has left them the way it left them tonight, sliding up their chests to their crowns and then away. Every night, the river has moved below them, low and steady. And every night these 4 faces have turned east and waited, without worry, for a morning they have never once failed to meet. They watched the river when your grandparents were not yet born. They will watch it long after this night is only a night you half remember. And for these few dark hours you are here among them, small and safe at their feet, one more quiet thing the giants are keeping. Think, too, of how strange and gentle it is that a single face should be set here 4 times over. Ramesses II could have had 4 different figures, or 1 alone, but instead he chose the same calm face repeated, so that whoever came up the river would meet him again and again along the cliff, the same steady expression, the same eyes on the east. It has the feel of a name said over softly until it settles, the way you might repeat a quiet word to yourself as you fall asleep. 4 times the same king, at rest, watching the water. There is nothing anxious in the repeating. It is more like the sure return of a thing you can count on. And they are so much a part of the hill that the whole cliff seems to have grown them, the way a face can seem to appear in a familiar shape you have looked at a long time. The rock did not decide to become a king. Patient hands freed the shape of Ramesses II from the stone 4 times and left him joined to the mountain below the waist and behind the back, so that he is both the king and the cliff at once. That is why the giants feel so settled. They are not standing on the land. They are the land, sitting down to rest, wearing a king's calm face and watching the river go by. Let your eyes go soft on them one more time, and let them breathe if they will. In the changing dark, a shadow gathers under a stone brow and lifts again, and it looks for all the world like the slow work of sleep on a great calm face. You know it is only the night moving over stone, and still it is a kindness to imagine them there above you, 4 vast sleepers who happen to be made of cliff, sitting up through the dark so that nothing in the far south goes unwatched. There is no harm in letting the giants keep you company that way. It is what they are for. The little carved figures at their feet make the whole front feel like a household settled in for the night. The great kings sit tall, and the small ones stand close among their ankles, and none of them is alone. It is the shape a family takes in the last of the evening, some grown and some still small, all of them under one roof, all of them safe. Seen that way, the temple front is not a cold wall of giants at all. It is a home cut into a cliff, with its people kept close in the stone, watching the river together while the night comes down. You are near enough to belong to it a little, this one dark night, sitting in the sand at the edge of the family of kings. They have done this on more nights than you could ever number. The light has left them like this uncounted times, and the river has moved below them uncounted times, and uncounted times these four faces have turned east and waited, without worry, for a morning that has never once failed to come. Whole lives have begun and ended at their feet, while they sat unchanged. And tonight, for these few dark hours, you are here among them, small and warm and safe, one more quiet thing the kings are keeping through the night. Feel the warm stone at your back again, the family of kings above you, the river somewhere below. The four faces hold their calm. Their eyes are on the east, on the far edge of the world where the light will return, and there is nothing in their patience that is anxious, nothing that strains. They are simply sitting out the night, as they always do, as they always have. Rest against them. Let your own watch grow loose and easy. The kings made of cliff are awake and breathing their slow stone breaths, and there is a whole gentle night still to come. Sit with a small question now, the kind you can turn over slowly in the dark without needing to answer it. Why would anyone make himself this large? Why carve a face 4 times the height of a man into a cliff, and then do it again, and again, and again? 4 giants across one front of rock, all of them wearing the same calm face. There is a wish behind that, a very old and very human wish, and it is gentle enough to hold in your mind as you rest. The king who did this was Ramesses II, and even in his own time, people came to call him Ramesses the Great. He was not content to leave one mark on the land and move on. He cut his name into stone, the length and breadth of the whole country, on temples and gateways and standing stones, in the north where the sea is, and here in the far south where the river runs between hard hills. More monuments carry his name than carry the name of any other king who sat on that throne, before him or after him. Wherever you went in that long land, you would meet his name in the rock, waiting. Think about what a name is for a moment in a place like this. It is the small sound that means you. It is what someone calls across a courtyard, what a mother says over a cradle, what stays behind in other people's mouths after you are gone. In the far south, under this enormous sky, a single name feels like a very small and fragile thing, easy to lose. And here was a king who looked at that smallness and decided his name would not be lost, not worn away by wind, not buried by the drifting sand, not forgotten by the slow turning of the years. He would set it into the biggest, heaviest thing he could find, and let the mountain carry it. That is really what the 4 giants are. They are a name made too large to misplace. Ramesses the Great did not cut his likeness into this cliff because he feared he would be forgotten next year or in his grandchildren's time. He cut it here because he was reaching much farther than that, past every life he would ever know, out into a future so distant that the people in it would have no way of remembering him at all except through the stone. He was speaking in rock to strangers who had not yet been born. He was saying, Across all that time, this is who was here. And here you are. You sit in the sand at the foot of that cliff on a night so far from his own that he could not have imagined your face or your language or the smallest thing about your day. And yet you know his name. It reached you. The stone did what he asked of it. It carried the name across a gulf of years too wide to feel and set it down gently in front of you tonight in the warm dark. There is something quieting in that, if you let it be quieting rather than grand. A wish made a very long time ago has come true, softly, and you are the proof of it, resting here at the giant's feet. It is worth being tender with that wish, because it is one you know from the inside. Everyone wants, in some small way, not to vanish completely. Everyone wants to leave something that outlasts the short, warm span of their own days. A child, a garden, a kindness, a name said fondly after they are gone. Ramesses the Great wanted the same thing every tired person wants at the end of a long life. Only he had a mountain to say it with, and the patience to cut a whole cliff into the shape of that longing. Strip away the crowns and the scale, and the four giants are only a person hoping to be remembered, hoping the sand will not swallow him whole. Look up at them again, knowing this. The four calm faces are not boasting at you. They are not fierce with pride, whatever their maker may have felt when he ordered them raised. Time has done a soft thing to them. It has taken the wish and left only the calm, so that now they seem less like a king insisting on his greatness, and more like an old face at peace, glad simply to still be here, still watching the river, still catching the last of the light. The name has been said so many times, by so many years, that it has settled into stillness. It no longer strains to be heard. It just is, the way the cliff is, the way the river is. The sand, of course, tried its best to have the giants anyway. Sand is patient too, and it does not care about names. In the far south, it moves and drifts and gathers against anything that will hold it, and over long stretches of time, it can climb the front of a cliff and fill a doorway and rise up around the knees of a seated stone king until only his shoulders and his calm face remain above the dunes. The desert has no wish to remember anyone. It only wants to be smooth and level and undisturbed, and a temple in its way is just something to be slowly, gently buried. So there has always been this quiet contest at Abu Simbel between the name that wanted to last and the sand that wanted to erase it. The king cut himself into the hardest stone he could find and reached for the deepest future he could imagine. And the desert, in no hurry at all, began the slow work of covering him over, grain by grain, the way it covers everything in the end. You can feel both of those patiences here in the dark. The patience of the stone, holding a name steady across the years, and the patience of the sand, waiting to take it back. Tonight, neither of them is winning or losing. They are simply both here, the giants above you and the soft dunes at their feet, keeping their long, slow argument under the stars. And that a name can win such an argument, even for a while, even for this one night, is a gentle thing to hold on to as you grow sleepy. The far south is full of things that do not last. The light does not last. It drains away each evening. The heat does not last. It leaves the stone each night. The wind comes and goes. The bird calls once and falls silent. The river water that passes you now will never pass you again. Almost everything here is on its way somewhere else, softly leaving. And in the middle of all that leaving, 4 great faces stay. They do not go anywhere. They hold their place and their name against the whole drift of the years, and they let you lean on them while you rest. You do not have to make anything last tonight. That is worth saying to yourself in the dark. The wish to be remembered is a daytime wish, a wish that belongs to the sun and the work and the long effort of a life. Here, now, at the foot of the giants, you can set even that down. Let the stone do the remembering. Let the mountain hold a name. All you have to do is be here, small and warm and briefly alive, resting against a wish that came true a very long time ago and is still gently, patiently true tonight. Rest, too, in the plainness of the wish once you have set the grandeur aside. A king with a whole country to command wanted the same simple thing you want on an ordinary evening, only he wanted it very hard and could reach very far. He wanted to be remembered kindly. He wanted someone, someday, to say his name and mean him by it. He did not know your face, and yet in a way he was carving these giants toward you, toward whoever would one day sit here in the dark and look up and know that a person had lived and mattered to himself, and hoped not to be entirely lost. You can grant him that hope tonight without any effort at all. It costs you nothing to remember him. You are already doing it, half asleep, simply by being here in the warmth of the stone he left behind. The name is cut deep, deeper than the wind can reach, deeper than most of the sand can climb. It is safe up there in the calm faces, in the broad chests, in the tall crowns catching what little light remains. It does not need you to protect it or to carry it any further. It has outlasted more nights than you could count, and it will outlast this one too, and be here, unchanged, when the gray light comes back in the morning. So you can close your eyes against the giants without any worry at all. They will not forget themselves while you sleep. The name that would not wear away is keeping itself the way it always has, and you are only a guest at its feet for one warm and quiet night. Let your mind drift now from the stone to the life inside it, and let it drift the way a boat drifts, slowly and without a destination. Ramesses II lived a very long time. He sat on the throne for something near 66 years, and that is a number worth turning over gently in the dark, because it is longer than most whole lives were in that far age. He was king when he was young. He was king in the strong middle of his days. And he was still king when he was very old, older than nearly everyone around him, older than the memory of most of the people who served him. Try to feel the length of that, not as a fact, but as a weight of time. There were people who lived their entire lives under him and never once knew another king. A child was born, and Ramesses was king. That child grew up, learned a trade, worked the fields or cut the stone or carried the water, married, had children of their own, grew old, and Ramesses was king through all of it. The children of that child grew up, and Ramesses was still king. For most people alive in the far south during those years, the king was not a man who came and went. He was simply a fixed thing about the world, like the river, like the sun, like the flood. He had always been there. It was hard to imagine that he would not always be there. There is a strange comfort in that, and a strange sadness too, and both of them are soft enough to rest against tonight. The comfort is the steadiness of it. When one thing stays the same for that long, it becomes a kind of ground under everyone's feet. Whatever else changed in a person's life, and much would have changed, the name of the king did not. It was the one word that stayed the same from their first year to their last. And the sadness, gentle and far off, is only that a life this long means watching almost everything else pass. To reign for 66 years is to outlast your own friends, your own rivals, most of the faces you knew when you were young. The king who built these giants grew old inside a world that kept renewing itself around him while he stayed. But do not follow that thought into anything heavy. It is a night for softness, and the length of his reign is better felt as the slow turning of the seasons than as any kind of grief. Think of how a life that long would have been measured in a land like his. Not by clocks, not by the numbers on a page. It was measured by the river. Every year the water rose, spreading out across the low fields, laying down its dark, rich mud, and every year it fell again and left the soil ready for the seed. Rise and fall, flood and retreat. Once each year, the great slow breath of the river, in and out, and each one of those breaths was a year of his reign. So count his reign that way, if you like, as you lie in the warm dark. Not 66 numbers, but 66 floods. The water rising and falling more than 60 times over the same fields, while the same king sat on the same throne, while these same giants watched the same river from the same cliff. Each flood the same, and each one different. The way each breath you are taking now is the same and different. It is a way of counting that has no sharp edges. It is the way the years feel when you look back on them from a quiet place at night, not as a list, but as a long, soft, repeating rhythm, the water coming up and going down, the fields greening and drying, the seasons folding one into the next. And under him, through all those floods, the country simply worked. This is the part most easily forgotten, because it is so ordinary, and it is the part most worth resting in tonight. A reign is not made mostly of great events. It is made mostly of ordinary days, thousands upon thousands of them, in which nothing that would ever be written down took place at all. People rose with the light and lay down with the dark. They planted and they waited and they harvested. They baked bread and brewed beer and mended what was broken and taught their children the small skills of getting through a day. Picture the quiet, ordinary rhythm of it, spread out across all those years. In the fields, people bent to the dark soil the flood had left, pressing seed into the ground, and later stood among the tall grain with the sun on their backs. On the river, boats moved without hurry, some carrying grain, some carrying stone, the great blocks floating upstream and down to build the things a long rain builds. In the quarries, patient hands worked the rock loose from the hills, the way patient hands worked it here. And in the houses, in the cool of the evening, families gathered the way families always have, to eat a little and talk a little and let the day go. None of that made any noise in the memory of the world. No one wrote down the 10,000th ordinary morning of that rain, the bread rising, the boat loading, the child learning to tie a knot. And yet, that is what the 66 years were actually made of, almost entirely. The great stone giants remember the king's name, but the rain itself, the real living body of it, was all these quiet, unrecorded days, laid one on another like the yearly layers of mud the river left, until they made a depth of time you could sink into and not touch the bottom. Let yourself sink into it now. You do not need to hold any of the details. Let them blur the way the far bank of the river has blurred in the dark. Feel only the length and the softness of it. A very long life lived out beside a very long river. Flood after flood after flood. The same king, the same water, the same patient giants, keeping their watch while the whole ordinary country worked and rested and worked again beneath them. There is a great deal of time here, more time than you can feel the shape of, and it is all moving as slowly as the water below, without edges, without hurry, without any need of you. And a reign that long leaves its mark not in a single great deed, but in the sheer accumulation of quiet ones. Somewhere in those years, a boy who first saw the king as a small child would have grown gray, and told his own grandchildren that he had never known another name on the throne, and those grandchildren would have found that hard to believe, the way you find it hard to believe a river could run for so long without ever once stopping. The king simply outlasted the ordinary span of things. He became less a man than a season people were born into and grew old inside, steady and expected, there at the start of a life and still there at its close, the one fixed point around which all the small changes of 100,000 ordinary days turned and turned. That is how a very long life looks when you finally look back on it from a quiet place. Not as the sharp, bright moments, though there were some, and you will hear one of them soon. Mostly, it looks like this. A long, smooth river of days, the floods rising and falling, the fields greening and fading, the seasons turning over so many times that the turning itself becomes the only thing you feel, gentle and endless and sure. The king grew old inside that rhythm. The giants grew old with him. And you, tonight, are borne along on the very tail of it, 66 floods and countless quiet mornings behind you, resting in the dark at the end of a very long rain, told softly, the way all long things are best told when you are almost asleep. Now there is one loud thing in this long, quiet rain, and the stone remembers it, so let us go to it together. But let us go the way you go to a loud memory late at night, from a great distance, with all the noise worn soft by the years between. Long ago, when Ramesses II was still a young king, strong and new to his power, he rode north to meet another people, the Hittites, at a place called Kadesh. And there, on a plain far from this cliff, the chariots gathered. You must understand what a chariot was, and how strange and swift a thing it seemed then. Picture a light frame on two wheels, drawn by horses, carrying men who could move across the flat ground faster than any man on foot could ever run. Now picture a great many of them, wheel to wheel, more of them than had perhaps ever been gathered in one place before, on both sides, dust rising under all those hooves and wheels, until the plain itself seemed to smoke. It was one of the largest gatherings of chariots the world had yet seen, and the young king rode into the middle of it. But do not let the noise come close tonight. Hold it far off, the way you hold the sound of a storm that is happening on the other side of distant hills, a low trouble on the edge of the world that cannot reach you where you lie. That is how the giants hold it. They have carried the memory of Kadesh for so long that all its terror has drained out of it, the way heat drains out of the stone after dark, and what is left is only the shape of an old story, dust and horses, and a king a long way from home murmured rather than shouted. Let it be murmured, then. There was dust, a great deal of it, hanging gold in the northern light and then gray as it thickened. There were horses, their necks stretched and their manes flying, the muscle of them working under the harness. There were the wheels and the shouting and the confusion of so many moving things at once, so that no single person on that plain could have seen the whole of it or said for certain how it turned. Battles are like that. They are not clear even to the people inside them. They are a roar and a blur, and afterward everyone tells it differently, and the truth of the moment scatters like the dust when the wind takes it. The young king was in real danger there, cut off for a time, far ahead of his own people, ringed about by more chariots than he could count. That is a frightening thing, and you can let yourself feel one small cool touch of it, the way the danger of a story reaches you gently when you are safe in bed and know already that it comes out all right. Because it does come out all right. That is the thing to hold on to, and it is the thing the giants hold on to too. Whatever exactly happened on that far plain, in all that dust and noise, the king lived. He came through it. He turned south again, at the end of it, and rode the long road home. And that, in the end, is the part of the story worth keeping, the part the stone truly remembers. Not the clash, the return. Think of that long road south, out of the North Country and back down toward the warm river and the familiar giants. Each day of it would have carried him further from the dust and nearer to home, the loud plain falling behind, the noise fading with every league, the land growing more and more like his own. The chariots that survived rode quieter now, no longer racing, only traveling, wheels turning over the road at the patient pace of men going home. You know that feeling, even if you have never seen a chariot or a plane of war. You know what it is to come home after something hard, to feel the loud thing recede behind you mile by mile, and the ordinary safe world rise up ahead, familiar and unhurried. The nearer home you come, the more the trouble seems to belong to some other place, some other version of you, and the smaller and farther off it grows. By the time the young king saw the far south again, saw the hard, bright hills and the river he knew, Kadesh would already have begun to turn into a story, a thing that had happened once up north, long ago, in the dust. That is why, when the memory of the battle was cut into stone, it could be cut so calmly. The chariots on the walls are still, though they are shown mid-charge. The dust does not choke anyone. The noise is gone entirely, because stone makes no sound. What the rock keeps is not the terror of the day, but the fact of it, the plain shape of a thing that happened and was survived, set down where it could rest. The king who ordered it carved was no longer a young man ringed by enemies. He was an old king by then, on his long throne, remembering from far away, the way you are remembering now, the way anyone remembers a hard thing once enough quiet years have grown up over it. So let Kadesh be that for you tonight, a hard thing softened by distance, a loud day gone quiet with age. The horses have long since stopped running. The dust settled on that plain more years ago than you can hold in your mind, and settled until the plain itself forgot them. The chariots are still wherever any trace of them remains. And the only living end of the whole story is this calm cliff in the far south, where a king who once rode through all that noise chose to sit down in stone 4 times over and face not the north and its trouble, but the east and its gentle returning light. Feel how far away it all is from where you lie. The plain of Kadesh is far in space, off to the north beyond hills and rivers and lands you will never see. And it is far in time, back at the young beginning of a reign that is self-ended in the deep past. 2 kinds of distance laid over each other until the whole loud day is as faint as a sound heard through deep water, present but soft, real but unable to trouble you. You can acknowledge it and let it go. You can be glad quietly that the king came home, and then let even that gladness settle, the way the dust settled, the way everything here settles once the sun is down. There is a lesson hidden in that stillness, though it is too soft to be called a lesson tonight, more a thing you already know and can let yourself feel again. The loud days do not stay loud. Every hard thing you have ever lived through was, at the time, a roar you could not see the edges of, and every one of them has since grown quieter, folded down into a story you can tell without your heart racing, set behind you on some road you have already traveled a long way down. The king knew this. He rode through his roar as a young man, and lived to remember it as an old one, from a throne, from a cliff, from the calm far side of many peaceful years. And you are on the calm far side of your own old roars, more of them than you would think, all of them settling now into the same low murmur as the river below. The giants above you never rode to any battle. They have only ever sat here, facing east, keeping their calm. Whatever their king did in his young northern days, they did none of it. They stayed. They watched the river. They let the light come and go. And now they hold the memory of Kadesh, the way an old person holds the memory of a hard year long past, without fear, without heat, as one small still thing among many, folded into a life that went on for floods, and floods afterward in peace. Let your own held things grow that quiet. The loud day is far away and long over. The king came home. The road south is finished. And here at the foot of the giants there is only the warm dark and the low river, and the whole soft night still gathered around you, asking nothing, holding you safe, while the old far noise fades entirely into the sound of moving water. Stay with that long road south a moment longer, because something came of it that is gentler than any battle, and it is the right thing to hold as the night deepens. The young king who rode home from Kadesh did not, in the end, keep fighting the Hittites forever. The two peoples circled each other for years, the way tired opponents do, neither able to swallow the other, both worn down by the cost of trying. And then, after a long while, they did the rarest thing. They stopped. They agreed to stop, and they wrote the agreement down, and they kept it. It is the first peace treaty anyone knows of in all the world, the earliest such promise that has come down to us in writing, and it belongs to Ramesses II and to the Hittites, made in the deep past on a night as ordinary as this one. Let that fact settle over you softly, because it is a kind one. For most of the long story of people, when a war ended, it simply exhausted itself, one side too broken to lift a hand, and nothing was written, and nothing was promised, and the quiet was only the quiet of no one left to fight. But here, two great powers, having spent their young kings and their chariots and their pride on that far northern plain, sat down instead and chose their words. They decided that the trouble between them would end not with one more charge, but with a sentence. That is a very grown thing to do, and a very old one, older than you might have guessed, and it happened under this same sky. Think about how those words had to travel, because it is a slow and soothing thing to imagine. There was no quick way to send a promise across the world then. The agreement was pressed into clay, into tablets a person could hold in two hands, the marks of the writing bitten into the soft surface and then let go hard. And those tablets had to be carried by messengers over an enormous stretch of land, from the heart of one kingdom to the heart of the other. Picture the sheer patience of that journey. A man setting out with a piece in a bundle, going north for the king or south for the Hittites, day after day after day, the same words riding with him the whole slow way. Follow one of those messengers north for a while, in your mind, since it will carry you gently toward sleep. He goes at the pace of walking, and of donkeys, and of small boats, the only pace there was. He passes the last of the familiar country and crosses into land he has only heard of. He sleeps under strange stars and rises and goes on. And the whole time, the thing he carries is not a weapon and not an order to attack. It is an ending. It is the folded, written wish of two peoples to leave one another in peace. He is carrying quiet from one land to another, one footstep at a time, and no one along the road can see that the small, hard tablets in his pack are heavier with meaning than any load of grain. There is something in that image worth resting in. A war is fast. It happens in a roar, in a day, in dust that rises and does not settle for years. But the peace that ended this one was slow. It moved at the speed of a tired man walking. It took months to travel where the trouble had taken only a moment to begin. And that seems right, somehow, lying here in the dark. The loud things come quickly and the healing things come slowly, and the slowness is not a fault in them. It is part of how they work. The words had to be carried a long way, by hand, with care, and the care was the point. And the words did not travel in only one direction. While one messenger carried the promise north toward the land of the Hittites, another was carrying the answering promise south back toward Ramesses II and the warm river he ruled. Two men on two long roads, passing somewhere in the wide middle of the world without ever knowing it, each with the same piece folded into his pack. It took the agreement of both to make the quiet real. One king could not end a war alone. The Hittites had to want the ending as much as he did, and they did. And so the tablets crossed and recrossed the great distance until the promise was whole at both ends, held and matched, a thing agreed rather than a thing imposed. And when the tablets arrived, at each end of that long road, the promise was made real in the most lasting way those people knew. It was set into stone and clay to be kept. Copies of the agreement were guarded and remembered, so that the peace would not depend on the memory of one king or the mood of one year, but would stand there, written, for anyone to return to. The words were meant to outlast the men who spoke them, the way a name cut into a cliff is meant to outlast the man it names. Two kings agreed that their peoples would not war, that they would help each other, that trouble in one land would find a friend in the other, and they trusted the writing to hold it steady long after they were gone. It did hold. That is the quiet triumph of it. The promise was kept through the rest of the king's long reign and beyond, so that the peoples who had met in all that dust at Kadesh grew, in time, into something more like neighbors than enemies. The chariots were put away. The young men who would have ridden them lived out ordinary lives instead, planting and building and growing old, because two tired kings had decided once to write down the word for enough. You can feel the weight lift in that, the way you feel a held breath finally let go. The war that made such a noise in the last chapter ends here, not with another battle, but with clay tablets carried a long way and set down gently at both ends of the world. So let the last of Kadesh leave you now, fully, the way you have already let the dust settle. The plain is far off and long silent, and over the top of that old silence, laid down afterward like new mud over old, is this softer thing, the peace, the words, the slow, honest travel of a promise across the earth. That is the truer end of the story, and it is the end the calm stone king would have wanted you to keep. Not the young man ringed by enemies in the north, but the old king on his settled throne, who had learned that the largest thing you can do with a war is to finish it, and write it finished, and let the writing hold. There is a plainness in this you can carry down into sleep. The hardest quarrels in a life are not usually ended by winning. They are ended by someone on some ordinary tired day deciding to say the words that let the trouble rest, and then meaning them long enough for the peace to take. It is slow work. It travels at the speed of a walking man, but it holds better than any victory, and it lets everyone go home. The king knew this by the end of his long reign, and the giants above you have known it ever since, sitting here in their deep calm, facing not the field of the old battle, but the gentle east, where nothing is fought and the only thing that ever arrives is the light. Feel the night settle further as the war folds itself away. The messengers have long since finished their journeys. The tablets were carried and read and kept, and the men who carried them lay down at the end of their roads and slept as you are getting ready to sleep. The peace they brought outlived them all. It is one of those rare human things that worked, that did what it was meant to do, that took a roar and turned it into quiet and made the quiet last. And here you are at the far end of all that time, resting in the very quiet those slow words help to make, with the river moving below and the giants keeping their watch, and nothing at all left in the world tonight that needs to be fought. The war turned to words, and the words turned to peace, and the peace turned, at the very last, into a night as soft and safe as this one. Now turn your thoughts from kings and treaties to something tenderer, because it is here in the cliff too, close beside the giants, and it is one of the gentlest things at Abu Simbel. A little way along the same rock face, not far from the 4 great seated statues you have been resting beneath, there is a second doorway into the hill. It leads to a second temple, smaller than the first and softer in feeling, and it was not made for the king alone. It was made for his wife. Her name was Nefertari, and she was the one he loved best, his great and beloved wife, and he cut a temple for her into the same living rock that holds his own. Let the smallness of it be a comfort rather than a lesser thing. The great temple is enormous, made to overwhelm, 4 giants facing the dawn. But beside it, this second front is quieter, gentler in scale, and there is a kindness in that difference. It is a place made not to awe a stranger, but to honor a person. The king, who wanted his own name too large to lose, wanted also to set his wife into the everlasting stone right next to him, so that the 2 of them would keep their long watch over the river side by side, through all the nights the giants would ever see. Walk the short way over to it now, in your mind, along the warm base of the cliff, and feel how the mood softens as you go. The 4 giants are behind you, huge and grave, keeping their great watch. And here ahead is the gentler front, its figures standing rather than seated, reaching up out of the rock toward the same sky but on a kinder scale, a scale closer to your own. You could stand before this doorway without feeling small. That was surely part of the intention. The great temple was made to fill a stranger with awe, to press the might of the king into anyone who came up the river road. But this one was made with tenderness, to hold a person rather than to overwhelm one, and standing before it, you feel less like a subject and more like a guest at something private and kind. And here is the thing that makes people go quiet when they understand it. He did not tuck her into a corner of his own temple, or set her small at his feet the way a queen was so often shown, no higher than her husband's knee, a lesser figure beside a greater one, the way the little family members stand small between the ankles of the giants next door. Instead, he gave her a whole temple of her own, cut into the same living rock, its tall figures reaching up out of the cliff for all the years to come. He set her beside him in the mountain and let the stone say so forever. Sit with what that means, softly, in the dark, It is a message with no words in it, and it does not need any. To carve a person as large as yourself, in a world that measured worth by size and stone, is to say without saying it that she matters as much as you do. It is a public thing, cut into a mountain by a river road, meant to be passed and seen. And yet, it is really a private thing, a tenderness made huge, the oldest ordinary feeling in the world set down in the hardest and most lasting stuff a person could find. He loved her, and rather than only whisper it, he told the cliff, and the cliff has been telling everyone ever since. There is a line that was cut for her, a dedication in the stone that says the temple was made for her sake, for the one for whose sake the very sun shines. Let that phrase drift through you slowly, because it is lovely and it is old and it was meant. For her sake the sun shines. It is the kind of thing a person says when the plain words are not big enough, and he had a mountain to say it with, so he said it in the mountain. Somewhere in that far past, a man who ruled the whole long country stood in front of a cliff and decided that the woman he loved would be remembered as brightly and as largely as he would, and would rest in stone beside him, where the morning light could find them both. It is easy, in a place built on such a scale, to forget that the people in the stone were people. But she was. Nefertari was a living woman who walked and spoke and grew tired at the end of her days, who was loved by a particular man across the ordinary years of a shared life. The temple does not tell us the small things about her, the sound of her voice or the way she laughed or what she liked to eat on a warm evening. Those are gone, as they go for everyone. What the cliff keeps instead is the size of the feeling, cut so large and so plainly that even now, even in the dark, you can stand at the foot of it and understand at once that here was someone deeply loved, and that the one who loved her wanted the whole future to know it. Feel the two temples standing there together in the night, his and hers, cut into the same warm rock a short walk apart. The giants face east, and so does she. When the gray light comes in the morning, it will touch her front as it touches theirs, the same dawn arriving at both, the king and the queen greeting the day side by side, as they have for longer than anyone can hold in mind. That is a good thing to picture as you grow sleepy. Two temples keeping each other company through the dark, neither of them alone on the great empty cliff, the beloved wife raised up beside the giants and kept there, honored, for as long as the stone endures. And she was honored elsewhere too, not only here in the far south. Far to the north, where the old kings and queens were laid to rest, a place was made ready for Nefertari that was painted so beautifully that people still speak of it with a kind of hush. Its walls were covered in color, in gods and stars and gentle scenes, the finest painting of its kind, made to carry her safely and beautifully through the long night after her life. So she was doubly kept, twice cared for, once in the deep painted quiet of her resting place, and once here in the giant stone beside her king. A person can be loved into the rock in more than one way, and she was. But let the far place stay far tonight, and keep your thoughts here, beside the giants where the two temples sit together in the cooling dark. This is the tenderness the cliff holds under all its grandeur. The four great faces are about a name that would not wear away, about reaching across the years to strangers not yet born. And this second, softer front is about something even simpler and even older than that. It is about not wanting to be remembered alone. It is about carving the person you love as large as yourself, so that whatever the stone carries into the future, it carries the two of you together. Rest in that as the night grows deeper. Somewhere under all the scale and the kingship and the enormous patient stone, there is only this: a man who loved his wife and wanted her beside him for good, and had the whole of a cliff to make it so. He gave her a temple. He gave her figures as tall as his own. He told the rock that for her sake the sun itself shines. And now the two of them keep their long, calm watch together over the river, side by side in the far south, greeting each dawn as one, while you lie warm and safe below, and let the tenderness of it carry you a little further towards sleep. It is worth remembering now, as the night settles fully around you, that all of this quiet grandeur was made by hands. The giants did not grow out of the cliff on their own. The halls did not open themselves into the hill. Every smooth wall, every calm stone face, every deep, cool room at Abu Simbel was cut, slowly and by many patient people, out of rock that did not want to move. And there is something wonderfully soothing in turning your thoughts at this late hour from the finished wonder to the long, patient work that made it, because that work was slow and steady and gentle, the very rhythm you want to sink into now. Imagine the beginning of it, the bare cliff before there was any temple at all. Just a face of hard rock above the river, warm in the sun, silent, holding inside it, though no one could yet see them, the giants and the halls and all the cool dark rooms that were waiting to be found. And then people came with their tools and their lamps and their endless patience, and they began, a hand's width at a time, to take the mountain away. Not to build something up, block on block, but to carve something out, to remove and remove and remove until the shapes that had been hidden in the stone stood free. Think of how slow that had to be. There were no quick ways to move rock then, only muscle and time and simple tools. A worker would set the edge of a tool against the stone and strike it, and a small piece would come away, and then another, and then another. That is how a doorway was opened into a hill. That is how a whole hall was hollowed out of solid rock. Blow by blow, chip by chip, a little dust falling with each strike, the cool inner stone opening slowly to the light for the first time since the world was made. No one could hurry it. The rock set the pace, and the pace was patient, and the people matched it. And these were not distant, faceless makers. They were ordinary people, living ordinary lives around the work. They rose in the morning and came to the cliff. They ate their bread in the shade when the sun was high. They knew each other, the way people who labor side by side for years come to know each other by the sound of a cough or the swing of a familiar arm. Some were young and some were old, and the young ones learned the craft slowly from the old ones, hand guiding hand, until the skill passed on the way skills always pass, from patient teacher to patient learner. A whole small community lived itself out against this rock, And the temple that stands here is the quiet record of all their ordinary days spent together at the same steady task. Let yourself hear the sounds of that work, softly, from a distance, the way you would hear them if you were drowsing nearby. There is the tap of tools on stone, steady and unhurried, many hands working at once so that the taps overlap into a kind of soft rhythm, like rain that never quite becomes a storm. There is the low murmur of people at their labor, a word passed here and there, someone humming, the ordinary quiet talk of a long day's work. And under it all there is the deep stillness of the inside of a hill, where the noise does not echo far, where the air is close and cool and smells of stone. Breathing the smells of it too, because they are part of the peace. Deep inside the rock, away from the sun, the carvers worked by lamplight, and so there was always the smell of oil burning, a warm, small smell, and the soft smoke of it drifting up along the ceilings they were opening. There was the dry, clean smell of stone dust, filling the air with every strike, settling on hands and shoulders and hair, the smell of the mountain being slowly taken apart. And there was the cool, damp smell of the deep rock itself, the smell of a place the sun has never reached, growing stronger the further back into the hill the work went. And think of the deepest work of all, far back inside the hill where no daylight ever came. There, the carvers worked entirely by the small flames of their lamps, in rooms they were themselves in the act of making, opening the dark ahead of them a little at a time. The light would have been soft and close, a warm gold circle on the stone, the rest falling away into shadow. A person could work only as far as the lamp could reach, and so the whole great inside of the temple was made in these small pools of light, patiently, one lit arm's length after another, the darkness giving way slowly and only where the flame allowed. It is a gentle image to keep as you drift, that warm, small light steady against the deep, cool dark. And this was not the labor of a single season. It went on for years. Think of that as you lie here. A worker might have come to this cliff as a young man and grown middle-aged against it, striking the same rock, opening the same halls, watching the giants emerge from the stone so slowly that the change from one year to the next was hard to see. The rooms grew deeper by the length of an arm, and then by the length of a body, and then deeper still, the cool dark pushing back into the hills season after season, while the river rose and fell outside, and the same patient hands kept at the same patient task. There is no hurry anywhere in that work, and that is why it is such good company at this hour. The people who made this place could not rush the stone and did not try. They gave it the time it asked for. They let a wall take as long as a wall takes. They smoothed the rough rock into fine flat surfaces the way you might smooth a worry out of your mind, slowly, with steady attention, going over it, until the roughness was gone and only the calm smoothness remained. A wall that would stand for thousands of years was worth doing without haste, and they knew it, and they worked accordingly. Picture the slow turning of rough into smooth, because it is a restful thing to hold in the mind. First, the rock comes away in coarse broken pieces, and the new surface is jagged and pale and raw. Then it is worked back over, more gently now, the high places taken down, the deep marks eased away. Then finer still, a patient rubbing and smoothing, until the wall that began as a torn face of broken stone becomes as even and quiet as still water. All of it by hand. All of it by people who would never see the far future their work was reaching toward, but who did the work beautifully anyway, for its own sake, because that is what patient hands do. And think how much of what you have rested against tonight came out of that quiet labor. The giants you have been sitting beneath were freed from the cliff this way, calm face by calm face, one careful strike at a time. The cool halls that wait behind the great doorway were opened this way, hollowed slowly out of the dark heart of the hill. Every smooth surface at Abu Simbel is the record of a small patient motion repeated more times than anyone could ever count, the sum of countless ordinary days of ordinary careful work, laid one upon another until they made a wonder. So let the patience of the makers settle into you now, as deep as the halls they cut. There is no rush here, and there never was. This whole place was made by people who understood that the finest things are made slowly, by hand, without haste, a little at a time, and that the slowness is not a delay, but the method itself. The lamps burned. The tools tapped. The dust drifted down and settled. The rough rock turned smooth under patient hands, year upon year, until a mountain had become a house for a name and a temple for a beloved wife. And now all that patient work stands finished and quiet in the dark around you, asking nothing further, holding you gently in the cool it took so long and so lovingly to open, while you let your own busy day grow as slow and as still as the deep-worked stone. Now let the outside night stay outside a little while, and follow the great doorway back into the hill, because there is a deeper quiet waiting in there than any you have felt yet tonight, and it is the right quiet for this hour. You have rested a long time in the warm sand at the foot of the giants, with the open sky above you and the river somewhere below. But behind the four great faces, there is a hole inside to Abu Simbel, a cool, dark world cut back into the rock, and you can go into it now in your mind, slowly, the way you would go into a cool room on a hot day, glad of the change. Step out of the sand and toward the tall doorway that opens between the giants. Even from a pace or two away, you can feel the air change. Out here, the night still holds the last of the day's warmth, the stone still giving it up to your back. But from the doorway comes a different air, older and stiller, the cool breath of a place the sun has not touched since morning, and never touches at all in most of its rooms. It moves against your face like the air from a deep well. You cross the threshold, and the warm night falls away behind you, and the hill takes you gently in. Under your bare feet, the change comes too. The sand at the doorway is still soft and dry and a little warm, but a step further in, and the floor turns to smooth, cool stone, worn flat and even, cool as the underside of a river rock you might lift on a hot afternoon. The coolness comes up through the soles of your feet and travels slowly up through you, and you find yourself walking softer, quieter, the way a person naturally does when they come into a still place and do not want to be the thing that breaks the stillness. Inside the doorway, the light goes soft at once. Behind you, the pale opening still glows with the last of the evening, but ahead the way runs back into shadow, and your eyes take their time. Little by little, the first great hall comes clear around you, tall and wide and hushed. And there, standing along both sides of the way, are more figures cut from the rock, a row of them, upright and still, their backs against the pillars that hold up the ceiling. They stand where they have always stood, calm as the giants outside, holding the roof of the hill quietly on their shoulders, and they seem to watch you come in without turning, without any sound at all. Reach out if you like, and let your fingers rest for a moment on the nearest wall. The stone is cool and dry and faintly rough, worked smooth long ago but never polished glassy, so that under your fingertips you can still feel the faint memory of the tools that shaped it, the small, even marks of patient work. It is not damping here the way a cave is damp. It is dry and clean and still, the dryness of a place the desert has kept sealed and safe, and the coolness of it under your hand is a steady, kindly coolness, with nothing sharp in it at all. Walk between them slowly. The floor is smooth and cool under you, worked flat by those patient hands you have already thought of tonight, and the air only grows cooler and stiller the further in you go. Out in the night there is always some small movement, the shift of sand, the far sound of the river, the touch of the last warm wind. But in here, the air lies perfectly quiet, held between the worked walls, going nowhere. The sounds of the outside fall away one by one behind you, first the wind, then the river, until there is only the soft fall of your own steps and, under that, the enormous silence of the rock. Let that silence be a comfort, not a strangeness. It is the silence of a place made to be still. The walls around you are covered in figures and shapes, all cut carefully into the stone, gods and the king and long quiet rows of writing that no one needs to read tonight. In the daylight they would show their old colors, but now in the deep shade there are only soft shapes on the wall, felt more than seen, keeping you company as you go without asking anything of you. You are walking through a made place, a thing shaped entirely by human care, and every surface of it was smoothed by someone who wanted it to last, and it has. There is a smell to the inside of the hill, too, faint and clean and very old. It is the smell of dry stone and cool dust, of a place shut away from wind and rain and weather, with the faintest ghost under it of long-burned lamp oil worked so deep into the walls that no scrubbing could ever take it out. It is not an unpleasant smell. It is the smell of somewhere kept, somewhere looked after, somewhere that has been dark and dry and safe for so long that the darkness itself seems to have a scent, quiet and mineral and still. Breathe it in slowly and let it settle you further. Go a little further and feel how the temple draws in around you. The first hall is wide, but past it the way narrows, and the rooms beyond grow smaller and lower and quieter still. This is how the inside of the hill was made, room folding into room, each one deeper and more sheltered than the last, the great open front giving way by degrees to smaller and stiller spaces the further back you go. It is like the temple itself is settling towards sleep, the way you are, growing quieter and closer and darker the deeper into the night it goes. There is no reason to hurry through any of it. The rock is not going anywhere. It has held its shape here for longer than anyone can count, and it will hold it long after this night is over. So take the inner rooms slowly, one soft threshold at a time, letting your eyes stay soft and your steps stay slow. The cool comes up around you like still water rising, past your feet, past your knees, until you're standing in it to your shoulders, the deep, even cool of the inside of a mountain, and it asks nothing of you but that you stand in it and be still. Notice as you pass from room to room how the ceilings come down lower and the walls draw in closer, so that each new space wraps a little nearer around you than the one before. It is not a closing in that frightens. It is the opposite. It is the gentle nearness of a small room after a large one, the way a child feels safer in a little bed tucked into a corner than in the middle of a great empty floor. The hill folds you closer the deeper you go, holding you a little more snugly with every threshold, and the closeness of the cool stone all around is only another kind of shelter, another blanket drawn up over you in the dark. At the very back of it all, deeper than any other room, there is a small, still chamber waiting. It is the innermost place, the one the whole hill was built to hold, and it is the darkest and quietest of them all. Almost no light has ever reached it. It sits at the far end of everything, past the great hall and the smaller halls, deep in the heart of the rock, and around it the whole mountain stands like a thick wall against the outside world. Nothing loud has ever happened in that room. Nothing hurried. It is a pocket of perfect stillness, kept safe at the center of the hill, and just knowing it is there, deep and calm and undisturbed, is a restful thing. You do not need to go all the way in tonight. It is enough to stand here in the cool dark, partway back, and feel the whole quiet weight of the hill around you, room within room within room, all of it still, all of it safe, the great doorway far behind you now, and only a soft gray glow to mark it. You are inside the calm you have been resting against all night. The giants that keep their watch outside are the outer face of this same deep stillness, and here you are within it, wrapped in the cool of the worked stone, held in the very middle of the patient mountain. Let the deepness of it settle you. Out in the world the night is passing. The stars are wheeling slowly. The river is going on its way. But in here, time seems to have set itself down and gone still, the way it does in the safest places. The air does not move. The stone does not change. Nothing waits for you, and nothing calls. There is only the cool, and the quiet, and the soft gray memory of the door, and the great gentle bulk of the hill holding everything steady around you, as it has held it steady for so very long. So rest here a moment in the cool dark before you go back out to the stars. Feel how good it is to be held by something so still and so strong, something that has kept its calm through more nights than you could ever number, and will keep it through all the nights to come. The rooms fold quietly away behind you toward that innermost stillness, dark and safe at the heart of the rock. And you stand in the cool of it, breathing slow, your own busy day gone as quiet now as the deep-worked stone, ready to turn back toward the doorway and the soft night and the river waiting below. Come back out now, gently, into the open night, because the deepest hour of it has arrived while you were inside, and it is the softest hour of them all. You leave the cool dark of the hill the way you came, past the still standing figures, toward the pale doorway, and as you step out you feel the change again, but the other way now. The great stone breathes its coolness at your back, and the wide night opens in front of you, and you come down again into the warm sand at the foot of the giants, and let yourself settle into it as into a bed you already know. It is the middle of the night now, the very middle, further from both the last dusk and the first dawn than you have been all evening. The desert has given up all its warmth to the sky. The sand you sit in is cooler than it was, though still soft and dry and easy to sink into, and the air has that clean, cold edge that the deep night has, the edge that makes the warmth of your own body feel like a small, good fire you carry with you. You pull your stillness around you like a blanket and look up, and the sky has changed while you were in the hill. Settle your weight down into the sand and let it take the shape of you. The grains are fine and cool and dry, and they shift a little under you and then hold, cupping your back and your legs, so that you are not sitting on the desert so much as held in it, half sunk into the soft, cool floor of the night. Somewhere far off the sand still keeps a faint memory of the day's heat, deep down where your fingers cannot reach, but up here at the surface it has gone cool and gentle, and it holds you the way cool sheets hold a tired body, close and soft, and asking nothing. The stars are out in their full number now. Earlier, there were only the first few. The bright early ones hung in a sky still pale at its edges. But now the last of that paleness is long gone, and the whole dark bowl overhead is thick with them, more than anyone could ever count, faint dust of them behind the bright ones, a great slow spill of light across the black. They do not glare. They are quiet, the way everything is quiet at this hour, a soft scatter of small, cool lights turning slowly over the cliff, and their turning is so slow that you cannot see it, only trust it, the whole sky wheeling above you a hand's breadth at a time through the long night. And against all that faint starlight, the four giants have gone black. In the last of the evening you could still see their calm faces, the shape of their features, the rest in them. But now they are only great dark shapes cut against the crowded sky, four huge quiet forms sitting shoulder to shoulder above you, their edges soft in the dark, their faces turned as ever toward the east, where nothing is happening yet. You cannot see their expressions any longer. You do not need to. You know the calm is there. You have sat beneath it all night, and it holds just the same in the dark as it did in the light, patient and unbothered, keeping its long watch over the river road while the stars turn slowly overhead. Listen now, because at this hour there is only one sound left in the whole world, and it is a good one to be left with. It is the river. Down below the cliff, where the dark water moves along its old way, there is a low, steady sound of it, so soft and so constant that for long stretches you stop hearing it and then find it again, always there, always the same. It is the sound of a great deal of water moving slowly and patiently past, going where it has always gone, in no hurry at all. There is no other sound. No wind now. No voice. No bird. Only the river, low and even under the stars, the one quiet breath of the sleeping land. Let that one sound carry the whole night for you. You do not have to listen hard to it. It is not asking for your attention, only offering itself, there whenever you reach for it and just as content to go unheard. It is the kind of sound a person can rest on completely, steady and soft and endless, with no shape to it that the mind has to follow, no words, no tune, only the long, low murmur of water going by in the dark. Breathe with it if you like, slow and even, in and out, the way the river goes on and on below the cliff. Every so often the water finds some low stone at the edge, and the sound of it changes just a little, a softer note folded into the steady one, and then it smooths away again, and the river goes back to its long, even murmur. There is nothing in it to startle you, only these small, gentle turns in a sound that never really changes, the way a sleeper's breath deepens and softens, and deepens again through the night without ever waking them. You could follow those small turns with your drowsy mind, or you could let them pass unnoticed, and either way, the river would go on the same, patient and low and endless below the cliff. And feel how small and how safe you are, held between the warm sand and the great dark kings. You are a small quiet thing at the foot of an enormous quiet thing, and there is nothing frightening in that tonight, only shelter. The giants are so large and you are so small, and yet you are not lost against them. You are kept. They sit above you the way a mountain sits above a sleeping town, not watching you exactly, but somehow keeping you all the same, their great patient bulk between you and the whole wide emptiness of the night. Nothing can reach you here that has not already been reaching this cliff harmlessly for longer than there have been people to notice. Notice, too, how the cliff behind you has changed with the deep hour. Earlier, your back was warmed by stone that still held the whole heat of the day. Now that warmth has nearly gone, given up slowly to the cool night air, and the rock at your back is only faintly warm, the last of the day's heat almost spent. It does not matter. You have your blanket of stillness, and the sand still cups you softly, and the small good fire of your own quiet body is warmth enough. This is the hour when the land itself lies at its coolest and its calmest, the low still bottom of the night, further from the last light and the next light than any moment else, and everything in it, the sand and the stone and the water and the sky, has settled as far down toward rest as it is going to settle. You have settled with it. You are very near sleep now, and you can feel it, the good heaviness of it coming up through you, the way the cool came up around you inside the hill. Your thoughts have gone slow and soft and unhurried. They drift toward the river and rest there. Drift toward the stars and rest there. Drift toward the dark, calm faces above and rest there. And each time they settle a little sooner and a little deeper. There is nowhere you have to be. There's nothing you have to do. The whole long night has arranged itself around your rest, the sand beneath you, the giants above you, the stars turning slow overhead and the river going on below. There is no more of the night left to do than to be in it. All the thinking is behind you now, all the small tasks of the day long finished, and there is nothing ahead but sleep, and past sleep, a morning that will come whether you tend to it or not. So you can let your mind go loose the way your body already has. Let it stop reaching after anything at all, and simply lie in the deep, low middle of the night with the sand under you and the stars over you and the long, soft river running on. Every breath comes a little slower than the one before. Every thought sinks a little further before it fades. So let yourself sink the rest of the way down into this deepest hour. It is the safest part of the night, the still low middle of it, when the world has gone as quiet as it ever goes and nothing at all is asked of anyone. The giants keep their calm black watch. The stars keep their slow turning. The river keeps its long, soft sound. And you lie held among them, small and warm and safe under the enormous dark, letting your breath go slow and your thoughts go quiet, held between the warm sand and the patient kings, while the deepest hour by the river carries you gently on toward morning. Stay just as you are, drifting and warm, and let the last quiet change of the night come to you without lifting your head for it, because it is coming now, softly, at the far edge of the sky. For a long while the dark has been complete, the stars thick and the giants black against them. But if you let your eyes rest toward the east, toward the low far line where the land meets the sky beyond the river, you will begin to feel, more than see, that the black there is not quite so black as it was. It has thinned, only a little, only at the very bottom. The first faint gray of the morning has begun, so gentle that it barely deserves the name of light. There is no hurry in it, and there is no drama. The gray comes the way the coolest, kindest things always come tonight, slowly, a shade at a time, with no edge and no sound. The thickest stars are still out overhead, still turning, but the faint ones low in the east have begun to fade into that growing gray, quietly giving up their places, the way the last guests leave a long, calm evening, one by one without any fuss. The sky is not bright. It will be a long time yet before it is bright. But the pure, deep dark of the middle of the night has softened at its lowest edge, and the day, though still far off, has begun. Feel, too, how the air itself carries the first word of the morning before the light does. There is a faint new coolness in it, the particular cool that comes in the last dark hour before dawn, cleaner and thinner than the cool of the deep night, as if the air has been rinsed and set out fresh. It moves so slightly you could almost miss it, the smallest breath of movement crossing the sand where before all was still. It is not a wind. It is only the land beginning, very gently, to stir toward day, and it touches your face as softly as a hand smoothing a sheet, telling you without words that the long dark is nearly done. Watch, in your drowsy way, what the coming light finds first. It does not pour across the whole cliff at once. It reaches the highest things first, the tops of the tallest shapes, and the tallest shapes here are the 4 great heads of the giants of Abu Simbel. Long before the gray light touches the sand where you lie, long before it finds the river or the base of the cliff, It finds the calm stone faces high above you, and it lays itself softly on them, the first faint, colorless light of the day resting on the tops of the four kings, while the world below them is still dark. And here is the gentle thing the whole night has been quietly moving toward, the thing worth keeping as you slip the last of the way into sleep. Those four great faces are turned to the east. They have been turned to the east all along, all night, all the many nights before this one. They face the exact place where the light is coming from. So when the first gray of the morning arrives, they meet it. Their calm eastward faces catch the coming day before anything else does, lifted and ready, exactly where they have always been, so that the very first light of every single morning finds them looking straight into it, unsurprised, unhurried, as if they had known all along it would come. Think of how many mornings they have met this way, and let the sheer number of them soothe you rather than stir you. The king who raised them, Ramesses II, has been gone for longer than can be easily held in the mind, and still the faces he set into this cliff keep their patient watch, and still they catch each dawn first. Morning after morning after morning, more of them than anyone could ever count, the gray light has come up over that far line and found these four eastward faces waiting for it, and touched them first, and moved on down the cliff to the river and the sand. They have met more mornings than any living thing, and they have met every one of them the same calm way, turned toward the light, ready for it, at rest. There is such deep steadiness in that, and you can feel it now as your own thoughts go slow and soft and begin to let go. Nothing about the coming of the day is frightening here. Nothing about it is even loud. The night is simply ending the way the giants always knew it would, the way it always does, with the light coming quietly up in the east and finding their patient faces first. The dark is not being driven off. It is only being let go of, gently, one gray shade at a time, handed over to the morning as softly as a sleeping child is handed from one pair of arms to another. And still, the giants do not change. That is the deep comfort at the bottom of it all. The light will come and the light will go. A whole slow day will cross the sky and give way again to another night, and through every hour of it, the four great faces will sit exactly as they sit now, calm, unhurried, turned to the east, keeping the same watch they have kept through more days and nights than there are grains in the sand around you. They met this same gray 1,000 mornings before you were born, and they will meet it 1,000 mornings after this night is long forgotten, and there is nothing in that to sadden you, only something to lean your tired mind against, steady and sure, and unbothered by the passing of any single night, even this one. And soon, though not yet, the light will do more than touch the tops of the giants. It will come further. It will slide slowly down their great calm faces and their folded hands and their still knees. It will reach the sand at last and the doorway between them, and then it will do the quiet thing this whole hill was made for. It will find its way inside. It will pass in through the great doorway and go back along the cool, dark hall you walked tonight, past the standing figures, room after room, all the way to that small, still chamber deep in the heart of the rock, and it will lay a little of the morning even there, in the deepest quiet place, before drawing gently away again. That is the promise the coming gray is carrying. Not yet, but surely. The light will reach all the way to the back of the hill. And as the gray grows, the last of the stars will go the way the low ones have already gone, not put out, only outshone, fading softly back into a sky that is slowly turning pale. One by one, the faint ones will slip away, and then the brighter ones, until only a scattered few of the strongest are left, and then, in their own time, not even those. It happens so gently that there is never a moment you could point to and say, the night ended there. The dark simply becomes less dark. The gray simply becomes more gray. And all the while, the four calm faces above you hold steady through the change, unhurried by it, meeting the slow arrival of the day exactly as they have met the slow departure of every night, without a sound, without a stir, turned patiently toward the light. You do not have to wait for it. That is the kindest part. The morning is coming, certain and unhurried, and you can let it come without you, because you are going to sleep now, and the sun does not need you awake to rise. The faces above you will meet it. The river below will catch it. The cool halls behind the doorway will receive it in their turn. All of it will happen softly, exactly as it always has, whether you watch or not, and so you are free to let go completely, knowing the night ends well, knowing nothing at all is left tonight that needs anything from you. Let your breath grow as slow and as even as the river below the cliff. Let your body stay just where it is, warm and heavy and held in the cool sand, and let the last of your thoughts drift up toward the calm, dark faces and rest there and stay. You have nowhere to go and nothing to carry. The night has kept you safe from its first hour to its last, and now it is handing you gently over to sleep, the way the dark is handing the cliff over to the coming light, softly, surely, without a sound. So let your breath go slow and easy, and let the last of the dark hold you a little longer while the gray grows kindly at the edge of the world. You are warm in the cool sand at the foot of the giants of Abu Simbel. The four great faces above you are turned toward the coming light, calm as ever, keeping their long, patient watch through the very end of the night, and the river is going by low and soft below, and the morning is on its slow, sure way. There is nothing to fear, and nothing to do, and nowhere to be but here, safe and small and held under the fading stars. The faces turn toward morning, and the light comes gently on, and you let go of the whole long day at last, and drift down softly into sleep.